All right. Here we go, man. It's another Wednesday night. And so you know what time it is, man. It's Teague's Take Time. Special edition. I'm gonna say special because typically we're having a whole lot of heavy Alabama talk, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that playoffs and things of that nature. But this is about the SEC preview. We're gonna bring you the film. JT's gonna talk about his stuff, but we got a very special guest on here too with us tonight who's a college coach. And so, we're always trying to learn. That's what we're about here, learning, earning, and man, just having a great old time. So sit back, grab your water or whatever cocktail you're going to have because Teague's Take is about to take off right now.
Oh,
Yes,
what do
sir.
you have a run out or no? Whoops.
No, I'm not going to do that because I know we got so much to talk about today. But what I do want to tell everybody is make sure they need to hit that subscribe button. Can't ever forget that part. Making sure that you're giving us the likes, telling people about the show, and you guys are doing a tremendous job with that. We can't thank you enough. Every time I see that on Twitter or on Instagram, Facebook, the amount of love that you guys give us is outstanding. So thank you for the love and support that you give us here um, with our show. Um, Anybody in on the Bama Standard, if you're watching it, post show or whatever it is, thank you guys for that. The comments that you guys leave afterwards, we do try to respond to those when we can and how we can. So just keep that up. All right. Um, it's high football season, but I'm going to get to JT right now just so he can kind of tell me how his day has been going. I don't want you to really dive into it. I just want you to know, give me a teaser before we bring in our guest because we're going to ask him, how are you feeling the day after the reveal of the rankings? I see your face. Is that the smirk you had last night when you saw it or what?
Yeah, a little bit. Because I haven't watched the reveal show at all this year. I just I let it happen, and then I find the screenshots posted somewhere, or somebody will text me and be like, "What is this? Guess what happened?" So I decided to do that again. I was actually actively avoiding it because I usually listen to like ESPN radio on in the car, and I was going to get some food and picking something up from Walmart, and the show was coming on, so I had to turn it because I just wanted to forget about it for a while, and I was like, look, it'll show up on my phone one way or another, um, and it did. Carson texted me and said something about Alabama's got that dark magic or voodoo
Can't
magic
believe it, huh? It's
or
always
something.
something. We got plants in there. Okay, well, um, oh no, I'd like to. Why don't you go ahead and bring in our very special guest because you probably can give a better introduction than I can um, with Coach Floden. So why don't you tell us a little bit about him so everybody know who it is, so they know who they're listening to.
Yeah, so Coach Floden, he is the offensive coordinator at William Penn, and he's been around doing many things. Um, and I will say that the schools that he's been at have been, at least to me, misleading on where they were because I would have also thought that Davenport University was in Davenport, Iowa, but it's not. That was in Michigan, where he was coaching running backs. And before then, he was at Sam Houston State as a tight ends and fullbacks coach. Uh, and you also spent some time at Wagner in New York. At least I knew where Wagner was. Is that correct? You were
Yeah,
doing.
I was very briefly at Wagner. I was a tight end and fullback GA slash coach. I mean, I had a position group, but I was on GA pay essentially. But I was there for like 7 months right before season. I went to Sam Houston.
Okay, and then I also remember University of Rhode Island as quality control. So my first question: what does offensive quality control do? What are you responsible for
Jesus. I mean, I did so
Everything.
all the grunt work. That's your main job. All the self scouts, all the data input.
Yeah, the
There's
tagging of the
no
films, things like
Yeah,
that.
there's no division of like tagging film where the O line coach does it. It's the QCs do all that crap. So I tagged front, stunt, blitz, coverage. I learned a lot of football that way, formation, personnel. That's really how I learned a ton of football. Not that I knew nothing going into it, but that was really where I got my starting coaching. Rhode Island gave me an opportunity. I went in. I like to think I did a pretty good job. They seemed to support me. So I did a bunch of crap. Like I said, self scouts, reports, getting all the formation reports going. Basically anything that was a document I made and printed for the OC. But yeah, so I guess short answer, ton of grunt work, lots of the hard stuff that no one wants to do. It ends up falling to your plate. So scouting reports, all that stuff.
Coach, can we go ahead and get a couple of them playbooks? Because I know you got some in your closet that you had to make and put in a binder or whatever. We're gonna need some of that for our learning purposes.
Yeah, I mean, I made front to back. I made the Sam Houston one. So, okay, did you ever sleep? Absolutely not. I
I was gonna
slept.
say.
I slept. So I lived at the facility. I'm not sure how to say this, but I've lived at the facility in the media room. Slept on the couch for 7 months. I didn't have a key to the facility either because I wasn't like.
So you could not only did you have to live there, you couldn't leave either.
So if I left to go get food or something, which I was also broke, so I didn't have a whole lot of food or a whole lot of money. But if I left to go get food or something, I came back and it was locked, I just leave in my car. So
That's that grunt
rough.
work.
which I just moved from Sacramento. So I drove across the country on a 6-day notice. Dad helped me out. I dropped him off at Albany, and then he flew to back home, and I just drove the rest of the way to Rhode Island. But no, it was a grind. Did I sleep much? No, not at all. I was probably sleeping 3-4 hours a night, 5 days a week. So it wasn't healthy by any means, but it was a good way to jumpstart my career and a great opportunity for me. And I learned a ton from that staff. So like coach like Patrick Murphy, he's still the OC there. He's a great dude. Tyler Loftus, he was a tight ends coach. Bounced around a little bit. Now he's back there as the receivers coach. I learned just so much from him. Like they all helped me jumpstart my career in a big way.
Cool. Okay, so you also played at Montana State. You played offensive line.
Yep, I was a center.
Okay. Well, we're gonna have some questions for you, for sure, about some offensive line technique, and
Sweet.
things like that. But another thing I wanted to get to before we get into the film was the scholarship talk that we were kind of having pre-show. So,
Oh yeah.
William Penn is an NAIA school, which that league does scholarships quite a bit different. So will you give us a little rundown? And especially since Dad missed the first part of it, I think our viewers might get a little kick out of that, of how this actually works.
Yeah, for sure. So I think a lot of people know about FBS increased recently. You've got 105 full ride scholarships. You can only give them full rides. FCS, you get 65 full rides that you can divvy up however you'd like amongst your players. Some could get 0, some could get full, some could get partials. D2 is less, and D3 is 0. NAIA, because we're our own thing, thought they were going to do stuff a little different. So you have an average scholarship based on your tuition that your average scholarship must fall underneath. On top of that, you've got a game day, basically salary cap that you can play on the field throughout the season. So the first part is your average scholarship. So like our tuition, let's say it's $40,000. It's a little different, but I'm just using easy math. Your average scholarship, let's say it's $20,000. You got to be underneath. That means if I go give one kid 20 grand, we're right there. But I can go give another kid 10 grand, so I can go unload 30 grand on this other guy who's really good, and I can bring them both in. And my average scholarship is still at 20K. So when you go to recruit, especially as NAIA, you want to make sure you're looking at people who are getting a bunch of government support for different reasons. So like we recruit heavily the state of Iowa for high school guys because they get an extra grant from the state if they qualify for Pell. So if they qualify for Pell, which is about $8,000, they also qualify for this thing called Iowa tuition grant. And every state's got their own version of the Iowa tuition grant. It's some states like Michigan, I know, is if you're from Detroit, you get free 4 years of school. So they pocket all their scholarship money, which is why like Ferris State's so good and Grand Valley's so good. But so you try and find people who are getting a lot of government support, so that way you can give them lower dollar scholarships and they're still on a full ride. But now that you've given them lower academic or lower athletic money, rather, now I can go give someone else who's maybe from Texas, Florida, California, I can go give them like $30,000 and I can give them a literal full ride. So you have to be an accountant.
Yes, you got to be an accountant to also do this. No, so
you got to be good with numbers. So then the second part is the game day cap. So let's say if our tuition's $40,000 for easy math, your game day cap would be something around like $500,000. So when you put an athlete on the field, their scholarship money counts towards that cap, only their athletic scholarship. So if I put a kid on the field who's got a $10,000 scholarship, not that big of a deal. But now we're talking about those guys that I went to California and gave them $35,000. That's a big hit to your cap. So the other element that makes things even weirder is if you have over a 3.3 GPA, only half your scholarship counts. Or if you have over a 3.6, none of it counts.
So you need smart kids too.
Right.
So exactly. So like Grandview is the number 2 ranked team in the country, I think right now, maybe number 3. They're still playing ball, but they've got a bunch of really smart dudes who have over 3.6 GPAs, and they just unload the house, give them a bunch of money, and none of it counts towards their game day. And then they go get a bunch of local Iowa kids who get ITG, and then they give them lower dollar scholarships to keep their average down. So like we were traveling about 65, 70 players this year because of the way our scholarships were with the grade average of our team, really. But our second and third highest scholarship guys were our 2 tackles on offense. And one had a 3.4, so only essentially 10,000 of his counted. The other guy had a 3.65, so $0 of his counted. He didn't count against us at all.
Dude, who does this roster management though? That's too much work, man. You're the coach. Who's sitting here watching the dollars and the money too? Like, hey, coach, you can't take him now. Golly.
So that's what we're looking at right now. We're out in California recruiting, like all of our full-time guys are here in California. And it's like you go to these JUCO coaches, you're like, okay, like kind of weird, but how much money does his parents make? Is he technically homeless? Like, is he living in his car? Like, you're trying to find these dudes who have these adverse situations. Number one, because it's awesome to give them a great opportunity and go get a degree. But number two, because it helps out with the money side of things. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you go find a kid who's growing up with, driving a Bentley, like he's probably not going to be able to get a big scholarship offer from you because it's going to take a lot of money to get him to come to Iowa. But you got a kid who's getting full Pell Grant and they qualify as homeless and they do all these different things to get a bunch of government aid. Now I can again full ride him for like $20,000. Wow. Yeah. So there's a lot of moving parts to it where you'll find some kids who are just so good. You're like, yeah, screw it. Let's give him $38,000. Like, doesn't matter. He's just that good. And we'll go find a bunch of kids with lower scholarships to balance it out. And some kids where you're like, hey, if you don't get a 3.5, 3.6 GPA, we're not going to keep your scholarship the same.
Ooh, who has that conversation? Hey, bro.
He said pre-show the head coach is also the one with that spreadsheet too. It ain't.
Yeah, so
they don't have a compliance team to do this.
No.
Yeah, so the coaches manage all this stuff at most NAIAs. Like, I'm thinking even like Grandview, the coaches still manage it. Like, they're a top team in the country. So there's a lot of factors that go in. Like, if you want to be a coach too, you got to do a lot of other stuff until you make it. It ain't all the millions of dollars. The top 1% of the industry makes 99% of the money. So you're doing a bunch of other jobs and you're coaching at lower levels and stuff.
Okay. All right. Anything else on that, JT?
No. Do you want to get his thoughts on CFP rankings?
I do. So I don't know if he actually looked at them or whatnot. You can give
I
me.
just pulled them up when you guys were talking about them.
Okay, so the one thing I want to ask you about. So I'm coming
Yeah.
from an Alabama lens. Okay,
Yeah.
on this, so keep that in mind or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So Alabama comes in at 11, and
Mm-hmm.
apparently the committee, I didn't hear it or whatever, was saying it. Basically, if you didn't play or if you don't play in this championship round, that you basically don't get hindered for that. You know what I mean? So Bama's not
Yeah.
playing, Miami's not going to play. And
Well,
basically,
hold on. No, we gotta. We have to clean that up a little bit. They said relative to other teams not playing.
Well, I would see where it's relative to teams that are playing. Like, who's a good example in here? Like SMU's at 8 right now.
that's right. And that was the one I was going to go to this Clemson. So let's talk about how does this affect on because the conversation is if SMU wins, they stay where they're at,
Easy. Yeah.
or whatever, and or not where they're at. I guess they ended up getting a bye or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Clemson is out, so it's the other way around. If Clemson beats them,
Do they make it?
They will. They get
they
the
will
automatic
make
bid.
it. The question is,
No, I'm saying SMU.
Oh,
Will SMU? Yes. Will they make it? Do they fall below?
Right. So that's where like I see the argument of it's detrimental to play in the championship game.
Yes.
Because if SMU were ranked right here and they wouldn't be ranked here if they weren't this record. But if they were to somehow not have made the game for the championship, they'd be in no matter what. But because they're in the championship game, should they lose, there's a chance they're not going to make it. Whereas Alabama seated at 11 and not in the championship game, like there's going to be some broken hearts. There ain't no way around it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and I don't know. I'm not sure how I necessarily feel about that. Honestly, even as a Bama fan, you go, well, are they really better than Alabama? It's the conversation JT and I had on Monday night. I think is
We were talking about Miami,
who's the best? What are you trying to find the
the
top,
best or most deserving.
the best,
I
or
think
the
it
most
comes down to
deserving?
what you think the playoffs are really for. Like, if you believe that the playoffs are really defined the best team in the nation, then yeah, you should take Bama over SMU. Because if you put them toe to toe, just the way that it shake out, I'm putting the house on Bama. But if it's about accolades, like if earning a spot in the college football playoffs is about the accolade of earning that spot, now you got a discussion of who you bring in.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's some people who like UCF in what year was that? 2017, 18 or something?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, like they were undefeated 2 years in a row. They probably like deserved, I use that term very loosely, deserved a spot in the playoffs because they were really good. But they did not want the smoke with an Ohio State of the time or a Bama of the time or whoever else was like a Georgia. Like they wouldn't have won that game.
Well, this is what the cat is saying about TCU.
Hey, okay, so I want to put an asterisk on this though, because yes, TCU got blown out in the national championship game, but they won a game in the playoff to get there.
Yeah.
Like they beat what we thought at the time was a damn good football team to get that right of getting blown out by Georgia. So
Yeah.
you know, I guess it to me it's a little bit different if they would have went up in Michigan and lost 70 to whatever. But they did beat somebody. They beat a conference champion to get there.
And that's where you get like the weird situations where it's like the de facto or like the real national championship is like a semifinal game. I think that's the main thing you want to like. You want the best game from a fan perspective to be the championship.
But we can't even get into the playoffs without it being the issues because you're gonna have, it's gonna go from 12 to 6 to or whatever how it's gonna be.
It's gonna be weird. I also think there's an argument to be made like the preseason rankings hold way too much weight because you look at like ASU. I'm just looking at this for the first time right now. I'm looking at Arizona State at 15. Like, how are they? Like, what is justifying them being technically below Miami, Ole
So
Miss, South Carolina.
I was given an interesting stat today, because there's two guys that I talked to that I think are both Arizona State grads, and they were both kind of shocked that, like, man, we're actually talking about Arizona State actually making a playoff. Who would have thought that this was going on? And he said the record of ASU's conference opponents this year was 25-47. They didn't play Iowa State, Colorado, TCU, or Baylor. And those schools have a combined conference record of 26-10. In the end, they largely benefited from a very favorable schedule. And that was the ASU alum.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like, hey, I don't even know how they're even ranked this high to begin with, because they didn't play anybody. They're really not that good.
Well, they're about to be in the daggone playoffs, though.
Yeah, that's what just win the conference. At this point, just win the conference.
Yeah.
You win the conference game, you're in. And
to that point, you've got a team that's not looking like they're going to make it, barely, who has to be in because of the structure of it. And that throws a big wrench in shit. Like,
well,
because the at-large ones are really going to get screwed. Someone's going to get screwed so bad.
Okay, so what's your bet then here? We're talking about SMU Clemson, but I want to bring in another one. I don't, because he has a Heisman hopefuls, right? Boise State, who's at 10, 11-1. It's going to play UNLV, 10-2. I don't know that they can actually beat him or not, but you're always thinking of championship weekends and stuff. You could have some games in here that really shake this whole landscape up after.
Don't doubt Brandon Marion. He'll go to town. Like the OC for UNLV
with his go-go offense. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's some things I disagree with in that offense, but it puts up points. You can't deny that.
By the way, he's the one who recruited Dexter, or the running back we had here, Donovan Lester.
Oh, yeah, William and Mary, right? And then he went over to UNLV. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, he went from William and Mary to Pitt to Texas to UNLV. He was at William and Mary like 5 years ago or something.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, we had a player that went to UNL or went to William Mary with him, and then ended at UNLV with him.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's crazy how those pathways can change now.
Huh?
It's crazy how those pathways can change now, because it used to be like I played for 4 different offensive coordinators in 4 years. Like I didn't have, there wasn't an option as much like to go like leave.
Would you have transferred?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Same head coach.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, so I wouldn't have went to Eastern Michigan, but that's because it's Eastern Michigan. I would have rather stayed in Des Moines. To be honest,
what difference does it make? It's cold and nasty.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I was like, yeah, Coach Creighton went to Eastern Michigan, but like I didn't want to go there.
You just like the blue track y'all had. That's why you understand.
The relays were the best.
Yeah.
Although we would have had a trip to the Bahamas Bowl, so maybe I don't know.
Okay. Well, there we have it. We just talk about this very briefly. There's a lot of haters out there. I don't know which way the right way. People ask, would I have been mad? I wouldn't have been mad if they wasn't in the top 12. Alabama, I'm talking about. We kind of talked about, do they deserve it? Where should it really be? But my whole point, and I'm just saying to everybody now because they think that someone is out to help Alabama. And I was like, well, that committee, I think there's a committee of 13. My smart ass comment, Coach Flo, was I didn't realize that we had planted this many Alabama fans on the committee. But now that I know they're there, great job by us. Because if we get in, whatever, we get in. So, okay.
Well, you do have a question from Linda Derry. Okay. She says she has a question for you. A guy hating on Bama said to me that Bama's been paying players. In fact, paid you and Sean Alexander. I told him I was going to ask you.
Well, sure. You need to ask him what happened to the money, because I don't know if he took the bag or whatever it is, but I didn't get none of it. So, I like to know who that guy was who's supposed to be giving to me because I could have used some of it. I know how I had to live and what I had to do. I hadn't even talked to JT much about this, right? So, we weren't fortunate like that. I wasn't dog poor. My parents were, able, but I probably wouldn't have been in Alabama without a scholarship, or I would have been paying for my own way there. But I got $50 every 2 weeks. The money is different now on how much they get. About $6,000 a month, I think, that athletes get, and
I got 800.
yeah. So you got more than me.
I got none.
I got $100 a month. So we had to eat, take your girlfriend out on that. So yeah, when you're saying should we have gotten paid, should I have got some of that bag? I would have needed some. I was fortunate enough that my dad did say, "Hey, since I'm not paying for your school, I will give you $300 a month." So I had $350 a month to do whatever I needed to do. Maybe it seems like a lot, but the $300 goes kind of fast with the amount of wings that I would eat and alcohol that I would drink. It didn't, and the gas that I had to. He didn't pay for my gas and all that other kind of stuff. So then you were just trying to scrounge up a car or something of that nature, right? And so he bought me a used Mustang. I just wanted a Mustang, and he bought me a used little raggedy Mustang. Of course, I couldn't do the right thing and not buy the big speakers that I needed to put in my Mustang. So I spent some of my money on the loud music because I needed to be cool. So I was a broke student as well. So all I'm saying is I don't know what this dude's talking about. It ain't true. I can't speak on the behalf of Sean Alexander, but I would imagine that's not the same. Did some people have some things? You remember Gene Jelks? I don't know if y'all ever heard that story in the Auburn deal, or Antonio Langham for that reason, and all this other kind of stuff. Some guys might have got some stuff, but this guy here did not. So whatever. Hopefully I answered that well enough.
There you go. And the last thing I wanted to add about the playoffs, there is a website still out there that does the BCS rankings. The BCS rankings that would be today would be Oregon number 1, Texas 2, Notre Dame 3, Penn State 4, then Georgia, Ohio State, SMU at 7, Tennessee at 8, Indiana at 9, Boise State at 10, 11, Alabama, 12, South Carolina. That would be your field if we went back to the BCS rankings.
It says Miami still wouldn't make it.
Right. Miami would be at 13, followed by Arizona State, Ole Miss, and Iowa State. So, yeah, people would still be upset if we were using the BCS.
I just got an old text from someone that's Miami fans again about who has. And you look through, right? Last question for Coach Flo before we get into the film. Last one. Do we go to 16-team playoff next year? Or is it going to stay at 12? And now that there's so much more, 13, 14, 15, 16, all think they deserve to be in NCAA or the playoff committee. Are we going to take it to 16 or we're going to keep it at 12 for a little while?
What's going to happen, or what do I think should happen?
What do you think is going to happen?
I have no idea. I haven't been up to it. I just think that no matter what the number is, there's always been people who are going to be upset. There always has to be a 13th or 17th or 25th or however many teams you're going to do. FCS does 24, and there's always people upset. D2 or NAIA, I forget which one, does 16, and there's always people upset. When I was at Davenport, we were the first team to miss the playoffs. Of course we were upset. Doesn't matter if they extended it even more. It doesn't matter if you go up more. There's going to be somebody who's going to get screwed.
Okay.
So right. I don't think it matters a whole bunch. I do think the best team in the nation is somewhere in the top 10, I would imagine. I think that some of them are kind of accolades. So I don't know.
I agree with you. All right. Okay, so we're gonna jump into this stuff. Thank you again to Blackfriar Pub for allowing us to have this type of stuff and being able to show you this kind of stuff. They are the um, Dallas home or the Bama home in Dallas. If you can ever get out there and come support them, you should do that. It is the one on McKinney Avenue, not the other one. I don't even know where the other one is.
Lakewood Village is the other one.
Doesn't mean you can't go support them there, but
Yes, it does, because that's a Georgia bar. So
yeah. Well, any Georgia fans that are here and you want to go root with your people, go on over there and see that. Okay, so I want to get to this film here, and I'm sorry I put my little notes right where our logo is there. But so while we dive into this with Coach, so when I was looking at this, JT and Coach Flo, I was just kind of looking at both sides, saying, okay, what was good on both sides, what was bad on both sides, right? So we're kind of evaluating both teams at the same time. But some of my notes are one-sided. Okay, so what I saw with this was Georgia was spending a lot of time. They ran a lot of RPOs, right? So the play action to the running back and then throwing it. And I think I put multiple in here because you can see. I don't know how well Texas covered those. So if there's something I think Texas has to do better is figure out which type of RPO they're running. And maybe after JT shows this clip, and I'm sure he'll have a question, maybe you can kind of tell us on the different type of RPOs, meaning this RPO has a slant, some of them have bubbles, some of them have stops. As an offensive coordinator, how are you trying to figure out how to get your run pass options?
So for me, I mean, I kind of break into 3 different categories. You've got your pre-snap gifts, which is just strictly alignment based. Like if you go back to the top real quick, down at the bottom, like if this were my offense right now and we're running, just power where we have all our RPOs on by default, that guy's running a hitch, an out, or a fade. So right here, it's like if the quarterback didn't throw the hitch in my offense, I'd be like, why did you not take your 5 yards? So that's just a pre-snap leverage and space read. So before he even looks at anything else, he's looking at that guy, and he should be able to go ahead and take that. It should be a pitch and catch 10 times out of 10, unless we're in a monsoon. The second kind is your numbers counts. So it's like, okay, let's say that corner, number 7, let's say he's down at like 3 yards. He's playing some sort of soft press or he's fully pressed, and we don't like our matchup on the go. Let's go look at the numbers on the other side. They got 2 over 2 right here. They look like they're in man. I would say no to something like a bubble or a now screen, depending on if we're to the field or the boundary. Such as the numbers count, like how many people are over how many people, can we block them? 2 over 2 in man coverage, don't like that. So let's just go give the ball and play another down. The last category is what I think is happening here is a post-snap read. So the quarterback is meshing and reading. So like while the ball is in his hands, he is looking at the defense and evaluating, should I throw this ball or should I hand it off? And honestly, like with your read key and man, the read is really just does he win? Mm-hmm. So if it was any kind of quarters coverage, he'd probably be reading a rover or a nickel defender here. If he fits the box or if he drops out, maybe a free safety depending on what the formation is. But right here, I think he's just saying, does he win or does he not? And he thinks he's got a shot to make a completion here, so he rips it.
Now, let me say something about that. That was a great explanation. I do want to appreciate that. And I need for everybody to understand that might have took him a couple minutes to explain. His quarterback had about a few seconds to try to make this decision and all of this kind of stuff. So and I'm saying that because they're always talking about Jalen Monroe and others, and I know there's different level of football IQ for quarterbacks, but it's not an easy thing to do when you got to figure out all things that coach just said.
And that's where part of it is trying to segment it into pre-snap and post-snap stuff. So it's like the gift and the numbers counts. It's like before the ball is even snapped, like he knows if he's doing that or not. And the post-snap is where you really get quarterbacks who can be like super talented and gifted at RPOs, like Tua with the Dolphins. He's so good at reading it, and he's got such a quick processing just side of his game to where he can know whether or not he should be pulling and throwing it or giving the football, and he makes good decisions and throws accurate passes. So there's some quarterbacks who are really good at it and some quarterbacks who try to see everything and they don't end up seeing anything. So like my coaching point is usually the man who sees everything is the man who sees nothing. The same thing I tell running backs, the same thing I tell quarterbacks reading RPOs. You need to know what you're looking at and what you're looking for. So like right here, he gets up to the ball, he sees man coverage. Does my glance win? That's all he's looking for. Does he win? So he snaps it. He's watching the glance, thinks he wins. I would probably honestly tell him probably to hand this ball off if I were going retrospect, but gets completion, so I'm not going to doubt him.
Well, actually, this went down as a drop, so it wasn't a completion.
Drop.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think that's a great read. I don't think he wins. There's not much separation there. I would say just give it a run right here.
Yeah. So, okay. No, that's good. It's interesting. So Georgia likes to run a lot of RPOs, and they did, get some yardage on that. All right, next cut. All right, gap control here, right? So now you could talk about up front because me and JT hit on these linemen all the time. You can look at them with their center who's actually climbing up to this linebacker, and maybe I can get JT in on it after he talks about the offensive line and does he like what Georgia is doing here. And do you call this a split zone or what do you call this?
Yeah, this would be split flow.
Okay.
In my opinion.
All right. So talk to us a little bit first about what he's saying to this running back here, his aiming point and what are his options on how he can cut the ball.
So aiming point in zone schemes is going to be an argument you have with every single coach who runs zone schemes. You can differentiate tight zone, mid zone, inside zone, all this different stuff. Really call it whatever you want. Make sure you have a defined aiming point. So right here, it looks like his aiming point's the backside leg of the play side guard. That's what I would guess. It could be the play side leg of the play side guard. Really just depends on how wide you want it. And you just got to make sure that you're marrying that track of the running back with what you're teaching the track of the O-line to be. So for me, zone schemes, they all have the same read, just on different people. So right here, inside zone, his first read would be the first down lineman to the play side. So it'd be that guy right over 53. His second read, I always teach a 1-2 go read. So you're reading one guy, two guys. After that, go. So his second read is going to be opposite where that guy gets pushed. So if that guy gets pushed to the left here, his read goes one block to the right. If his guy gets
this
pushed,
guy, which one?
Whatever block happens next to the right. So as it develops, it's going to end up being that linebacker who's in like a 40 right here. He climbs to that play side backer.
Here.
As the play happens, that block and that read is going to change. So it's got to be a little bit dynamic.
Got it. I see. There it is. There it is. Okay.
So if he were from the top, actually to get like reached or to spike or to get pushed anywhere to the right side, now his read would transition one block to the left.
Okay.
So that's why zone schemes, in my opinion, they just take longer to work because your running back, he's trying to understand, where's my read going? Is it going in? Is it going out? Who am I looking at? And really, when you refine that type of read, now you can start to cook with zone schemes. So, like, I'm a big wide zone guy. So the same read process happens for us, just on the first guy on the edge. So it'd be that widest guy. So it's the same rules, though. If he gets pushed in, our read goes out. He gets pushed out, our read goes in. So whether you're running inside zone, tight zone, wide zone, whatever it might be, for me, it's the same read, just on different people.
Got it.
And then there's some people teach the bang, bend, bounce. For me, it's 1-2 go. So that guy right here in this picture, his first read gets pushed out. So his read goes one guy inside. That guy gets pushed really in, kind of squared up. Take off. Go.
He gets skinny, JT. He gets skinny, man.
Imagine that.
He gets skinny.
Look at that.
Okay. Off to the races.
Hey, I like that. I'm already thinking. I was like, you know what? I'm about to call our running backs coach and tell him to watch this clip or not this clip, you explaining this because I did play running back once upon a time, and this kind of came natural to me.
Yeah.
But
pat yourself on the back
yeah,
there. So
yeah.
that's
But
that's
the problem that I have as a coach is when things just seem obvious to you and you just do that thing, it's very hard to then teach somebody else how to do it.
Yeah.
Because then you're just sitting there like, dude, the hole's right here. It's like, well, how do you teach somebody to find it? What's that process that you can go through to get repeatable action like that, other than just saying, well, he's gonna have to screw it up 85 times before he figures it out, because he may never.
And really, those 85 times, he's probably screwed it up 83 different ways. So it's like it's never the same error repeated. And that's, in my opinion, the job of a running backs coach is to get you 4 yards. And doing that is teaching them where their eyes need to be and how to read and process. Because, you know, when I was at Davenport, we had the running back back of the year in the conference. There was nothing I was going to do during that entire course of the season to make him a better athlete. Like, he was as good of an athlete as he was going to be. But my role as the coach is to make sure I'm teaching him when to be where, how to do things, and get him in the right spot so that he can go use his God-given and skillfully earned abilities to go get yards.
All right. Okay, just quickly, JT, on the other side from the Texas standpoint, and this is a good angle. I kind of watched this and I was trying to figure out, did I like what their linebackers were doing or not, based upon the steps of the linebackers, you know. And I've seen this when I was with Cleveland, all this, when you kind of start right and then you shift back left, because you can tell they've been kind of taught this for some reason, but it's back to gap control is what I had on this. Who has their helmet on the wrong side? You know, because he finds that gap. I'm wondering if that tackle should have left his head inside, or if the linebacker should have had his head on the outside of 55. That I know you hadn't
Can you
watched.
go to the wide real quick so I can see the coverage?
Yeah. So,
because to me it looks like they're falling back, and the motion's taking the guy that's supposed to be responsible for the play side out of it.
But is that eye candy that you guys give, or is he actually? Should they be? So comes when who are you following? Because the linemen are going right. Should the linemen be going right and let somebody else worry about that guy behind the line of scrimmage? Or do you fall back like you're saying with the linebackers because of the –
I'm saying, like, from an offensive coach's perspective, you can't – on defense, you can't do both. You can't fall back and have your rotating safety take the motion guy. Like, if you're rotating that guy down and he's going to run with the motion because he does have curl flat, some sort of 3 variation, you can't fall back because you already have an extra hat back there with the nickel. So there's no need to fall back in this case.
You're just saying that you should be going.
They should go
here because you're. If something comes back to that side, there he is. Yeah, okay. I agree with that.
And
they should be rotating weak here. You know, whatever. I don't know what kind of rules they got with motions and whatnot. If this is an auto check or if this is a call, but whatever it is, like, they shouldn't, in my opinion, should not be falling back with the split flow.
I agree. All right.
So you got another RPO here.
It was just a different one, right?
Oh yeah. Well, this is the easy one, right? This is the one where you're like, look, I got a bubble. That guy block him. He's too far. Like,
so this is
maybe almost don't even fake it. Just throw it.
Yeah, I'm saying he knows. Like, right now, the ball's not snapped. He knows he's throwing that thing. He probably fakes it just to. If in my offense, I'm yelling at him because I'm like, just throw the damn ball out there. Like, give him the fucking rock. Like, let him go run, because he's wasting time and giving that overhang more time to cover ground. And to get technical with it, you know, I tell the quarterbacks. So if you go back to the very top, he's drawn a line in his head on the inside foot of that slot receiver up to 8 yards. And anyone in that box counts. So anyone above 8, and some coaches do it different. Some coaches do 10, 12 yards. They'll do in the apex, whatever. But count the defenders in that box that he draws in his head. Right here, they've got maybe 1. So.
Oh, you're saying from him. So, like.
No. So the one that you have drawn from the receiver still.
Mhm.
Yeah, that one. So anyone outside that line counts.
Oh, I
So
see.
we got one blocker. They've got one defender. Yeah, let's rip the bubble. Don't even fake it. Get the snap. Give it to them, and let's go get some yards.
Gotcha. Easy read.
Yep. Pre-snap. There's no post-snap read here, in my opinion. He knows he's throwing it.
Yep. Now Texas has to, and we're not picking on Texas. It's just because they're on defense first, but they did miss some tackles here. So it looked like the guy had a good break, and he cut all the way back, and they missed 2 tackles and guys chasing. So
Yeah, and maybe at the end here, I need to show the passing chart for both teams' quarterbacks because it is fairly obvious what they did well and what they didn't do well based on area of the field. If I were to draw, you draw your little boxes here. Georgia lived right here.
Yep.
And they were absolutely awful everywhere else. I think they completed. I can show it later, but I can only remember 3. He was like 1 for 7, 10 yards and in the middle of the field, and he was 0 for down here, and he was 0 for here and 0 for here. So, I think that Texas is going to need to figure out the RPO game in here.
Yep.
And kind of force this again, and Georgia's got to be able to hit some things over the middle of the field. You can't have a zero passer rating over 10 yards a second time, I don't think.
Yeah. Perimeter tackling.
Okay. And so I wanted to hear from Coach about this play design a little bit. It's really all about the top. You got the dive and the running back. So this is interesting because when I said go to play 52 after this, but it's basically the same action. So I thought this was good. The only thing I really saw is again what Coach was talking about as far as the angles of the running back, gap control, because Georgia was able to run the ball on them as well. Ooh, look at this double team down here, JT. So Coach Flo, I'm a defensive back, but I love watching the guys up front. Yeah, hopefully you appreciate that as a lineman. I just love when you see them big boys get all up with each other grill.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean,
so
it hurts a little bit after it sometimes, but it's definitely fun to watch.
So what I want you guys to remember is tight end block. You got someone who's coming back around by the quarterback and the running back by the action. Okay, those are the 3 things that I like, because I would say this is a common play, right? You see it in the pros and everything else. I don't know what you call it or what you call this motion, but it's very common, right?
Yeah. So to me, this is a post-snap reverse fake, and if you really look at like the elements and kind of break down what they're trying to do with it, this is the same play that we looked at earlier. Now it's not a motion, it's post-snap, it's inside zone, not split flow. All those things are true, but you're trying to control the backside overhang of the zone with last time it was play side, this time it's backside. You're trying to control the overhang with some sort of action. So last time they used a fly or a jet motion to control the play side overhang and to get him out of there. I'm assuming they knew that Texas was going to fall back with the split flow. This time, they're using a post-snap reverse fake to try and pull that backside overhang away so that they can now try and run the ball in the interior. So regardless of how you look at it, they're just trying to control overhangs with pre- and post-snap movement.
Man, don't you love this chess game, man? Y'all understand. When people try to make football too simple, man, it ain't simple, bro.
And there's sometimes like we learned. So we ran a reverse this year, went all right, got us like 15 yards or something. Got to be happy with that. We planned on the next team we were going against. We knew they had a really good staff. So when you go against a really good staff, you anticipate they're going to watch a good amount of your film. We ran a fake reverse and nobody went with it. Nobody went with it. They all just stuffed it play side. We got like -1 yard or something. But it's like in that situation, you're like, well, what happens if we just gave the reverse? So it's this is a little safer. I would assume, I haven't watched every Georgia game, but I would assume they gave a reverse the game before, or maybe it's something they do regularly. But for them to respect the reverse fake, it shows that they either knew something or that they do something that this is working off of.
Okay. So just remember that when we get to 52.
Okay, then I will ask my question after we look at 52 here.
So look at the action again. It's not exactly the same, but it basically running back, guy coming around, but they actually hands it to him. So you need to go to Y copy so you can see the.
Here, let me move us over.
Yeah. I want you to watch what the tight end does. and I need coach or both of you guys to really kind of talk to me about this and how they. Jesus, you're talking about wide open. What? So I don't know, JT.
This is really reminiscent of almost like a same side leak concept, in my opinion. So like leak is the one that you'll get off all the nakeds where the tight end blocks, then goes underneath and attacks up the field opposite. It's getting to the same spacing as like a leak concept, but with the flea flicker, they're just kind of going off that reverse fake that they gave earlier. So trying to elicit a response to it and then attack it. Because everyone's thinking like tight ends least your worries in this situation based off what you've seen throughout the game. They're worried about, they faked the reverse earlier. Now they're probably going to give it. They're playing with you.
So again, this is coaching, right? To me, you brought up a term that we hadn't really used on the show before. So I kind of want to make sure that you kind of give an easy, simple definition, or maybe JT can too, of what leak concept means. People won't know what you're talking about. Leak. They're thinking probably some water dripping or something, but
yeah.
Well, I think that's kind of apt, right? It's slow, essentially, right? It's not a pop where it's going quickly.
Right. So leak it's a very popular concept, especially in the NFL and like high red zone, stuff like that, where the key element of it, you can run a bunch of different combinations or routes with it, but the key element is the tight end is going to fake block on the back side of the naked, and then he's going to go like a drag, so across the field, and he's going to bend it up the field. He's looking over his inside shoulder, so he's going to go like right up from there, up the numbers. Yep, just like that. So he's going to fake block, get lost in the wash. The quarterback's going to fake a wide zone away from him and then boot back. So wide zone would be going the other way, typically the way it's ran. So wide zone that way, quarterback would boot that way, and then he'd throw it back across the field to the tight end. That's the key element of a leak to me. Some people define it differently. That's the way that I define it. This is kind of like a same side version of that, where instead of going across the field, now he's just going right down the seam.
Mm-hmm. Block, kind of getting lost. There he goes. Well, coach, I just thought it was good, Okay.
And so this is gap control again. Let me get us back on this side.
Yeah, so coach, we always talk about, hey, just how defenses really have to be super sound in their gap. So I thought this was interesting because they ran a twist. JT looks like 15.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then I'm watching 37, and so this is where I'm going now because I see the guy coming up on for 37.
You got some on the ropes when they put the bear front down.
Yeah, but it didn't. It just I'm trying to figure out what 15 was supposed to do. Versus 37.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think what you want, and I think this is tough for him, right? Because he's in a 0, right? So just pre-snap, I imagine it's kind of like pulling. It's like, okay, you need to know who is it that you need to get around. Like not only your guy, but like who is the number, what 2 guys do I need to find myself in between, which when he's lining up here, I think he's got a note of who that guy is. And he's saying, I need to be on his outside shoulder. We're gonna twist like this.
Then the puller comes.
Right. And then he gets a little bit of okey doke here of like, oh, I'm supposed to be right here, but there's a new guy that shows up. Now, I guess it depends on who you ask as defensive coordinators, whether or not, hey, you need to recognize this and get out here, or if you take the route of, well, the linebacker's just supposed to make him right, which is kind of usually where I go is you're the one that's 5 yards off the ball. Like, help your boy out.
He lost the running back, though. He thought he was going to cut back, I guess, 37.
I think it comes down to, like, who's your box spill cap players? Like, is 15 supposed to leverage it, or is he supposed to box it? Like, what's his responsibility? I'd imagine he's supposed to spill it here, which with the tight end coming back around, there's got to be someone to box it back in. I don't know how Texas plays it typically, but I'd imagine in the bear front, it's got to be your linebacker because he's the one who can recognize it better. And they fell back with split flow action earlier. So, I don't know.
Yeah, well, and you got this guy. He's coming down. So, I'm thinking even more so, like, you need to be.
He should be your cap,
here.
that guy coming down. Yeah.
So, I think we're all aligned, and it's really, flowing and going and just trusting the people around you doing what they want to do. And you can't just be fooled by a lot of eye candy and things of that nature. They're linebackers. So what am I saying? Texas, if they're going to have a way to compete, they need to stop the RPOs. That's the first thing I said. And the second one is they got to do a lot better at the gap control. They're going to need to be able to get their linebackers going, and they need to go, or they're going to keep getting gashed on these running plays because they're falling back or hesitant or whatever it is. Georgia's too good at being able to do this type of stuff, and it could get.
I think we saw 2 clips now too where they fell back against some sort of, motion or action going away. And I think this time this linebacker is like, no, you're not getting me on this one. And they just creased him. Like,
yep, I got him anyway.
Yeah, so it's. I think that's why like split flow is so prevalent. I guess I would say. Whether it's split flow insert like right here or it's split flow regular like zone, just because you make the defense make decisions. Like there's a moving gap. It's also why gap schemes are so favored by a lot of coaches. Like there's a moving gap. Someone's got to know how to fit it. It's not just going downhill and running.
Okay. What do we got? One more play out of this group?
No, we're done with this group.
Okay. Then this is before you go before we flip over, we probably should take our.
Oh, we should. Yeah, we've been going for an hour.
90-second break to help pay some bills. So, as we said before, grab your beer, grab your bourbon, grab your water. We'll be right back.
Oh, no.
After he hits the other button. George Teague here, formerly of the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Dallas Cowboys. So let me ask you a question. Are you an athlete or a coach looking to boost your online visibility? Well, you've got to check out On3. Their personalized web pages amplify the total you on and off the field. Whether you want to grow your visibility, build your brand, or simply show the world who you truly are, On3 is here for you. They showcase the complete person, celebrating your passions, perseverance, and the pursuit of excellence beyond sports. These web pages are the ultimate digital hub to elevate your brand and highlight your journey. So head on over to www.on3.io/microsites and get started with On3 today.
I think I'm supposed to do an ad read for John O.
Yes, the Christmas party is coming up this weekend.
Yes, and I gotta find it. Here we go. Titan Texas is the North Texas chapter of the University of Alabama National Alumni Association. The mission of the chapter is to promote the university to prospective students in North Texas and raise money for the 10 endowed scholarships. The mission is accomplished through social, educational, and philanthropic events. I got it right this time. The next event is actually this Friday, 2 days. Friday, December 6th at the Tower Club in downtown Dallas. If you haven't gotten your tickets already, you can purchase those at tideinintexas.com and enjoy an open bar, appetizers, music, and breathtaking views of downtown Dallas from the 48th floor of Thanksgiving Tower. So make sure you go and see this man.
And I know what he's saying. He writing the Roll Tide in there. But did y'all hear him say open bar? Come on, man. You need to get there. Yeah, you need to go support and have some fun and all this kind of stuff. But, man, go out there and get you some food and drink, and have a good time. All right. What's up, Coach Smoke? Good seeing you, brother. Run the table in the house, man. Yes, sir. Appreciate your support.
I guess John O is also a Yankees fan.
Can he be that and be his? Anyway,
Who cares?
John O is weird. So, okay, so let's get to so we're flipping sides this time. Texas now on offense and Georgia's on defense. What do we got? Like 5 plays, 6 plays, something like that?
We got 9, but I think we have possibly a couple more. How many did you pick? Do you remember?
I had 11 total, so I don't know how many we just watched or whatever.
Okay, we watched 6, so that means the ones that I picked are already in here. Okay.
Okay.
So you want to look at the left side of the secondary here. I'm assuming the defense is left, correct?
Yes. So one of the things that why I said this is not necessarily to watch the secondary. It was to give me a reminder that when you watch these plays and you watch their passing plays, for whatever reason, Texas was throwing the ball. Oh, it didn't matter where they were. They were picking on that side of the field. So I don't know if they found a corner or whoever said, we're going over here. So that was the first piece. So there's a couple clips in here that when you just look at it, it became very evident. Now, they had to play catch up and try to make some things happen, but he's very serious about that. So when we're talking about how do you adjust on defense, I'm sure Coach probably saying the same thing of like, dang, why the heck they throwing over here all the time? And what do we do to combat that? So schematically, I don't, they were playing a lot of they weren't very sound in the secondary.
Yeah, and it kind of saved them. Georgia was getting pressure on
viewers.
25%. I think it was 25% of the dropbacks. Without blitzing, their pressure rate actually went down when they started blitzing. They were with just the 4. They were getting their pressure to sack percentage was like 27%, and with the blitz it was around 25. So they were creating some problems back here, and I think Ewers had something like, and I think Coach Flo, you did some work at PFF, didn't you?
I did for a little bit until I earned some money to go save up and then move out to Rhode Island. So right before I moved out there, I was working for PFF.
So I guess you can speak to how good these numbers may be, because we've always kind of wondered how these grades happen anyway. But maybe we'll ask you that after the film. But
Sweet.
They had Ewers marked for 7 plays that were turnover worthy. Plays and 0 big time throws. So also doesn't seem like a recipe for winning a football game against Georgia.
Or really anybody.
No.
Yeah, for anybody.
One of the other stat that I'll get into that I'll probably talk about a little bit, or that I could just go ahead and say now, is that Texas didn't have any explosive plays out of the run game during this game, meaning 10 yards or more. I think I put the 1 10-yard run on here that they had, but they didn't have any other ones that went for longer than 10 yards. That's different. There it is.
I was gonna say this might be it right here.
This was
okay.
Everything. All their big plays all came out of the pass. and they were typically to that one side. So, yeah, you know.
So are we calling this counter here?
I would.
GY counter? Oh, maybe GH. I guess because that's a Y, but whatever.
I call it GY.
Well, I think we see this play a lot every single week, right? You guys are scheming up your counter. So how do you guys do that when you're flow, when you're looking to figure out who needs a pull, who's the wrapper? Is it just standard? You know, your base is whatever, guard and tackle. I'm just making that up. I don't know. You know, I think you typically think that, but now you have guards and tight ends, guards and H, the guard and the guy coming in motion here. Right? What are you doing as a coach to try to get creative and say, hey, we know we want to run this play, but we need to make it a little bit different. So can you tell us about that process as an offensive coordinator, how you actually
Yeah, definitely. It's I think of it the same way. Like, it's what is the defense keying and kind of reacting off of that. And you'll know based on film study going into a game, usually what they're going to key. There's also an element of self-awareness of just knowing like, hey, we have run to our tight end 85% of the time or something. This team is a well-coached staff or a well-coached team, very well put together staff. Like, they're probably going to key off where our Y is. So maybe you don't want to run GY counter, you want to run GT instead. So if they're keying where the Y is, now they're getting a false key. Maybe you want to do some arcing things. There's a bunch of different ways you can run counter off of it. But the main difference to me in GY or GT, and not technique-wise, just strictly like scheme-wise, is what are they keying? Are they keying the Y? Are they falling? I guess not falling back, but are they flowing with the pullers if you pull the Y? Or is it different if you don't? Are all things equal? Then let's go with the safer option and just pull the tight end. But those are the things I'm looking for whenever I'm signing GT or GY. Granted, this season we were not a GT counter team. We didn't think we had the dudes to run it. So now if you're Texas, you got the guys to run it. It's like you can run whatever version you want. But it's dependent really on the rest of your run game. I know Texas is a big counter team. So it could be dependent on, like right here, they're running counter to the weak side when they very well in 12 personnel could run it strong. It could be a tendency breaker. It could be based on what the defense is leaning towards. So those are some factors that you'd look at. It really would depend on the particular opponent.
Do you at this level, at your level, and this level, do you guys change at the line which way you want to run it? Meaning, if you got a 3 or 2-eye or something, does it matter to you on the counter, or do you just change the way that you block it at the point of attack based upon the alignment of a defensive tackle?
To me, it doesn't really matter if it's at a 3 or at a 2-eye. And there's some people who swear by running it at the 3 technique, so your center has a shorter down block. And there's other people who are going to swear by pulling the center in a situation where it's a long down block. So it depends on the makeup of your offensive line. And then, you know, for someone like me who doesn't really care for running at a 2-eye or a 3 technique, you know, it's just going to be blocked differently. Last year, the way that we ran counter in our last game, it was just we called it, we ran it. It's a little bit harder to check with me just because you need 2 off the ball tight ends, or you need to check between GT and GY. So it's something where you'd have to motion, or there's an added element to where if you wanted to check it, the defense could also adjust. So if they're setting their 3 tech to the tight end,
right, which is something that I would do, and you put the tight end over there, we're just going to move the 3 over there.
Yeah, they're just going to bump the shades, and then you're in the same spot you started at. So
Okay.
there's a couple different factors there, but you know, I know some people like the Ravens are huge on this. They'll pull their center if they're going to run it to a 2-eye. Set the down block doesn't have to go as far. The guard can just down block, and the center will pull the kick out. But it really depends. Like I said, it depends on the makeup of your offensive line and kind of what your stance is.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So we got a viewer question. First, I want to ask if you even agree with the premise, because there is the question inherently gives a statement of fact. So the question is, can you explain why both run game and play action aren't more effective out of pistol as opposed to shotgun handoffs. So my preface question is, do you agree that play action is more effective out of shotgun as opposed to pistol?
I wholeheartedly disagree, actually.
I was gonna. That's
Um,
why I asked, because that's how I
but
felt.
but I would say there's an element too of like, how do you normally run the ball? So like you're inherently going to be more successful faking what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you go pistol and you're 70% run action, you're probably not going to get a big fake or fit to the run action because they know that you're going to launch a shot off of it. If you're a team like we were, who was 45% pistol across the board, I think wide zone's a much better play with the running back in a home position, whether that be under center or from pistol. And that was our base run. It was 40% of our run game. We're going to fake our run actions out of pistol. And I think that's more effective if you were to say a pistol team running run action from pistol versus a shotgun team running run action from shotgun. I would side with pistol because your back turns to the defense.
Yeah, that's what I like. Is the quarterback has to turn his back, and that for some reason elicits a response usually from the linebackers of the quarterback's not looking, therefore it's not pass.
Yeah, where'd the ball go?
Right.
Especially if they're good at hiding the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wonder if people get lazy with that piece as far as, hey, just run the play action over in the front or whatever. Because once you do that, is the ball actually in his left hand? Is it in his right hand on his hip?
Yeah, because I mean, if you're, with this still right here, if you're 5-11, if Ewers actually has the ball in his right hand and gives that empty hand to the back,
mm-hmm.
I mean, that's, to me, that seems kind of like what you want the textbook fake with, is that open hand going to the back and you're hiding the ball in here the whole time.
Yes.
Yeah, and you can have different actions based off of what you run. So like we had 3 main run action protections this year. Our most popular and best one was off our wide zone because, like I said, that was a huge chunk of our run game. So it was a setup run action off of wide zone, and we just told them to run the same track that they normally did at quarterback and extend. One of our guys liked to extend the ball. Another guy liked to extend an open hand. I didn't really mind either way. I felt like they both got good reaction because the quarterback's back was turned and there was a lot of flow with the offensive line. Now, when you get to like interior runs, so like when we faked our tight zone or we faked our power, I always liked them to show the football because we didn't turn our backs on those meshes.
Yeah.
So just to present it in the belly and then pull it and
Peyton Manning was good with that. And JT, if you need to skip some of these just so the second time, some of yours you can, or if we can speed fast. I know we're being very heavy. And thank you, Ben, for your comment. We appreciate it. But so only thing I had here is the 4/3. What does that do? Because it's still found a way to get open here, and it's really not 4/3. With your corner, because they're all in man, but the corner is outside. Again, notice I said it was to the left, defensive left, still is.
So it's the good old fashioned Texas route, huh?
Yeah, good old box check on defense, in my opinion. So it's just first in, second in, first out, second out. How do you beat that on offense? You run 3 routes the same direction.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you look at this and you wonder why they lost, we're only talking about this one thing, but it seems like Kirby and his staff, which you said, are very, very smart, and they coached up their team very well to put them in a position to hand Texas this type of defeat. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion, that this was a coaching thing. And maybe not necessarily a talent thing. All right.
Again, creating explosive plays on the left side of the defense.
Come on, man.
Leaving his man wide open in the middle of the field.
Getting frustrated. I don't even know if I was like, man, can somebody over there cover somebody? But
I couldn't see. Did they get a run action fake here again?
Let's see.
He's got our cameras on. Oh yeah.
Yep. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
So I don't know I know there's a couple different techniques people will teach their linebackers in run action, but I know a lot of people will teach like a robot technique where they're turning around and hunting up crouchers.
Yeah, you got to turn.
It looks like one guy does that and the other one doesn't, and the one that doesn't gets the ball thrown by his ear.
The one on the hash mark right there now, what he's talking about. So he basically what coach is saying is that he needs to turn and look up, try to find that receiver that's coming in behind him. But he doesn't turn.
Yeah. So, or at the very least, he needs to gain a little bit more depth. I mean, he started at 5. He got up to 2 because of the run action. That's fine. But then he only gets back to 6.
Yeah, he's late. No.
Yeah, our landmarks or technique. I can't criticize if he doesn't robot because I don't know if they teach it, but something's either off with landmark or technique in that case.
Yeah. So what am I thinking Texas is going to have to do is they're going to have to make more explosive plays earlier, right? In their passing game because they were late with a lot of this stuff, and they got to figure out how to run the ball better. To create some explosive runs as well. Okay. Of course, which side of the field they throw the ball to? That's the only reason I put that on there. He came from down here, but
picking on him.
They're just running over there, man.
Okay. So these are, I think I picked 4 here, and most of them are pressures. I thought this is kind of what Georgia's defense was doing well, right? Giving you, and you can't see him right now, but yeah, so you got a wide, you got a wide 9 over here. And I'm messing up the picture. Sorry. But then they're going to shift the front, right, and mug the backers. And they actually do a pretty good job of picking this up. The problem is the running back's got to kind of stand in there and
get blasted.
Yeah.
So everything's good except for 23 falling over. And then Ewers kind of has to start to try to escape. And then from there, hold on to the football.
Yep.
He didn't fumble it here, but he did in a later one. And if we can, I say we, but kind of just talking offensively, if we can, because this is 3rd and 5, right? So if you have a little bit more time, actually, that's not the same play. Sorry, it's 3rd and 11. So you need the time, right? You can't, the clock needs to be a little bit longer so that your quarterback, I don't think my pen's
open. I mean, look at the guy at the top, the guy in the middle of the field.
Right. Yeah. But of course, you can't see him right now. Let me move our camera.
He's fighting for his life.
He's already under attack. And that's where I was kind of getting at with the pressure to sack percentage already is 25%. 1 out of every 4 throws looks like this as far as the pressures.
Yeah, I mean, in protection, this is just a matchup thing. Like, in my opinion, depending on what kind of a route concept you got on, there's different philosophies about how to pick up double mug, especially in the A gaps. And this is how I would draw it up. Like, I would have the running back. Now, I'd probably cheat the running back up to be a yard behind the line of scrimmage in a perfect world, but you don't always get a perfect world. But when you think matchups on 3rd and 11, like, you don't want your running back. Like, some people would say, oh, you got a full slide in the double mug. But now your running back's on a guy who pass rushes
in. Yeah.
Defensive end.
Which is weird to say about college, but now for hundreds of thousands of dollars, he is rushing the passer, and now he's got to go block him. You're not going to get the ball off on 3rd and 11. So your best bet is to put him on the linebacker. he just can't get smoked by an equal matchup.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, here's your adjustment. Right, we were talking about throwing the ball to the defensive left. Well, they got him.
Big, got him.
3rd and 5. Now we're gonna sit on it. We know where you're coming. We'll take that from you.
Let's say you can only throw over here 9 times, 10 times when we get it.
Takes one.
Right. So I guess you hold this a little bit longer.
Get that scene.
Yeah, maybe you get the whole shot here. But again, I'm gonna move us. You can see how early this ball's coming out, right? So this is what we were talking about with Alabama's defense too, of when your eyes are in the backfield on the quarterback and you can see him throw the ball, it makes breaking on the ball a whole lot easier when you're watching the whole thing happen.
Yep.
If you never have to actually turn your hips or put your eyes on the receiver,
Then go find the quarterback afterwards.
right?
That's why you see more picks in zone coverage.
Yes.
It's a little trap. I like that. I don't know that if this is quarter. What is I'm watching this? Is this
I think this is Tampa.
Tampa 2? I see the guy running up with them.
Yeah, they got the pole runner. They got 2 trap corners. 12 is just sinking until the ball's out.
Yep.
I think, this is just Tampa 2. That's a great call. Like, that's like, I don't know what you're doing. This shit, like.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you is like if you're a quarterback, if you being the offensive coordinator and yours comes off the field and you grab the iPad, maybe you guys don't have it at William Penn. We didn't have it at Drake, but
first year.
Huh?
We do first year with them.
Oh, nice. Cool. Okay, so you get the iPad and you're looking like what's the correction here? Do you have a correction? You say, hey, this is just not a good play call against the defense on 3rd and 5. We'll get it next time. My bad.
No. There's sometimes that happens. Like there's sometimes I'm like, hey, like I called 4 verts with 6-man protection to cover 4. My fucking bad. Like, sorry, dude.
Yeah,
like,
there's just nowhere to go with this one.
Yeah, and that's a bit of a loaded answer, but it's like there is times, or a loaded example rather, but there is times where it's like, yeah, that wasn't a great play call. Like we called a one-off play into not the right coverage, and we were screwed. I put you in a bad spot. I made you have to make up for my error, but we're a team, and that's kind of how the game works.
Mm-hmm.
So there's times where you screw up and put me in 3rd and 16, and I got to go try and make up for your error. I put a bad play call out there, and you got to go make up for my error now. We're a team. We work together. We got to figure this shit out. So
yeah, that's awesome. Say it for the people out there in the back.
Yeah. Coaches are part of the team too. It ain't just players on there. Like that's something that I preach a lot to my quarterback. Before every game, I went up to whoever the starting quarterback was. Actually, we had 2 guys who started a couple games for us. So I'd go up to both of them and be like, hey, you help me, I help you.
Mm-hmm. Nice. All right.
Okay, so I put this on here just because I thought this was beautiful. I loved this pressure right here. We'll move us over a little bit more just so we can see the defensive end right here. I just
boom.
This is great. It looks sexy on film. You get the twist and I don't know how they're IDing the mic here. I don't know how they're going to decide whether they're going to slide, whether it's going to be a half slide, whatever. What I do think I know here, my pen is not working anymore, but there's 6 guys on your screen that you can see the numbers of, or at least the helmet of, and you've got 6 guys in the protection.
Yep.
You think you're good. The problem is they sent the corner.
Oh, got him.
They only bring 5 here, right?
Yeah, they end up dropping. They end up dropping 2 out. They bring 5. Running back steps up. So let's go back here. So the running back steps up and takes the backer, number 5, I believe. Boom, and then you get
M's are dangerous, man. Like
then you get the cross, and they pass them off.
But
There's
yeah,
so many offensive coaches who will look on a whiteboard. I'm sure in the past self, me too, and be like, yeah, we're fine still. But the reality of passing and bumping this thing all the way back to the corner is just not going to happen in time.
no.
So
Well,
it's
yeah,
like,
and
how do you?
the hardest part I think to this is
Short field, he's in the boundary.
right. You're already into the boundary, and he's only at the top of the numbers. Like this is not. I mean,
Yeah.
and you're playing Georgia. That guy probably runs a 4.3. Like this is, he's coming quick.
I mean, you gotta.
Corner was looking his chops.
I would love to say my O line would point this out, but I mean, the indicators are there. It's just knowing. I don't know their tendencies, so it's like against a corner pressure team, like we played in our last game, which we picked up a corner pressure and made me really proud. But I always teach the O lines like press inside leverage corner, safety off the hash and low. So it's like if those things are happening, like I'm okay with you guys getting it out to a corner, but it's to the back's responsibility here. Like the back has to scan from number 5 to the corner. So he has no chance. Now, the easy way that you beat this on offense is you have to cross key your back. And if you don't know what's coming, like you're just screwed. They got you.
You can't. I don't know, because 5 actually came. The other
Yeah,
guy.
it's like if they were to sort this thing, I say sort, other people say slide, whatever. If this slide was going to the offensive left, you're fine.
Right, because then because now the center is going to pick up 5, right?
Yes.
Instead of the back, and you're not actually going to slide out to number 11, I guess.
Well, he's saying that the back would be cross key, would see 18 as bailing, so he can go back and look left.
Some people call it an Abby, where the back is taking the opposite A gap, and if no one shows up, he slides. So then the tackle would take the widest, guard would take the second widest, center would take the third widest. Again, like you need to know what's coming in order to do that. But if you cross key your back, you're in a much better spot. And I don't know, like maybe Georgia may have been like on one right now, and they just know, hey, if the back's to the boundary, they don't cross key their back very often. We can bring this pressure.
Yeah.
And they could have dialed this thing up perfectly. Like it could be kudos to them. Great call. It could have been that they got lucky and caught them where the back was not cross keying. I don't know the answer to that one, but it could be a couple things. Like, that could have been just a great call, or it could have been
I'm going with a great call.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, like the percentage of teams that cross key at a high rate is probably pretty low.
Yep. All right. Texas gonna have some work to do, man. Trying to figure out how to beat these dudes.
Yeah, I mean, if they can't get the run game going, like you said, if you're only going to be able to break 1 10-yard run, that's not going to be great. And then if you've got to throw passes like this, so this is actually Arch's in the game. This is not particularly his fault. So this is one where I was saying I want to get your take on what you're telling your offensive tackle here. So number 56 starts his kick slide, but then he kind of shuts it down and he looks a little confused to me. And I want to know, how do you clean up his technique? Because that little hesitancy like this and he gets square.
Yeah, don't dance.
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't bode well.
My favorite,
Holding.
I guess, joke is to our left tackle, Adrian Ayala, great player, honorable mention all conference. I go, dude, you're 6'5", 360 pounds. You're probably not good at dancing. Don't dance with these guys. Like, you just got to – and patience is the hardest thing for an offensive lineman because, like, you're playing a very active, very physical collision sport. You think, like, I got to move at all times to protect myself, really. And sometimes the best thing you can do is just sit there. So get to your aim point. For me, all our protections, aim point is outside knee to the midline of the defender. So if you draw a line from his right knee, it should go right down the midline of that defender. The tighter you get to the ball, the tighter the aim point goes. So this guy should be on inside leverage of him. The number 56 should be, that is. His knee should point right at the midline of that D end. He's in a perfect relationship right here. He should just shut it down. Just be patient. Now, as he continues to rush up the field, now you keep gaining depth. But,
My pin's
right here, it's
there
like,
you go.
yeah, like he's in a great spot right here. He's in a perfect spot. I would like to see that right hip a little more square. But like right there, if you draw that line again, he's outside. Like he's trying to change it.
That's
Now
for
he's
the
gotta be,
people that we're talking about. What'd you say about those hips being square on kick slides? Oh Lord, how many times we talked about this?
Yeah. We've been talking about how Alabama's tackles tend to face the sidelines on their kick slide.
drop the hip. O linemen in general are not athletic enough to re-square their hip against a crossface.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, he can't dance with that guy. He's got to trust his ability and trust his technique. You know, he's at Texas. He's probably a great fucking player. But on this rep, he just dances with the guy and messes up.
Well,
it's also a very tough ask to look at a kid and say like, hey, you know that 300-pound man moving at you full speed and you could kick my ass at any day of the week? Yeah, don't move. So it's like sometimes you got to realize what you're asking. Like understand that it's hard, but you got to do it.
Okay, so I got one more question for you. Before we let you go, at least you're on the West Coast, so it's only 7:45 for you.
Yeah.
And I'm determined to ask this to every offensive coordinator that we have on the show or O-line coach, and you happen to be both.
Sweet.
So help me out here. How can I, other than seeing people pull, how can I determine just by looking at the line whether it's zone scheme or gap scheme? Pulling makes it pretty easy for me, right? I can power, counter, that's easy. Guys are moving, you're getting the down blocks. But it's the duos.
Oh, you're asking me. Okay, fuck. All right. In my opinion, so like we carry tight zone. It's one of our complements to wide zone. I call it tight zone because our ID system is a zone ID system. But the way I coach it is literally, I try to explain this to a couple of our coaches, like it's literally duo. There's no like kind of or typically or sometimes, like it's literally duo. We just call it tight zone. And for me, what differentiates it is in a zone scheme, everyone's got to step with that play side foot first. Okay. In a gap scheme, you can step together, you can plant it and get vertical. There's a couple different techniques you can apply. But in a zone scheme, like all these guys, if they're running, so we go back to the top, if they were running tight zone to the offensive right, it'd be essentially the same thing as duo to the offensive left. The difference would be that left guard would take a right foot step, and on duo, he'd probably take a left foot step. Or sorry, the left guard, my bad.
Okay, so you're saying this guy here.
Yep. If it was a zone scheme, I would say he's taking a right foot step, no matter what. Doesn't matter where anyone is. It could be different sizes of step, but that right foot is going to be his first step. And if it was a duo, the way some coaches teach it, this is also where you get some ambiguity to it. He would potentially step with his left foot at the defender.
Okay, so what I just heard, I'm gonna repeat it back to you so I can make sure I got it right. Is I'm not gonna be able to tell.
You ain't gonna.
I think the most important part is it doesn't matter. Like, you know, it's like sometimes is it inside zone or duo? Is it tight zone or duo? It's like who the fuck cares? Like,
yeah. So this is I want to go back to this clip right here because duo was a new concept for me, and everybody's like, it's power without a puller, and I'm like,
that never makes sense to me.
Like that. Yeah, that means absolutely nothing to me.
I understand the analogy, but I just disagree with it. Like,
and then they're like, we got to look at the double teams. So then I saw this, and I'm like, is this duo or is this inside zone? I don't know.
This is inside zone lock. So the one thing that, like, if it's duo, the way that I explain it to like a newer coach, like I had to this year, if it's inside zone, the O line is moving to the right, and the running back is also going to the right.
Okay.
If it were duo, the O line's going to the right, and the running back is going left. So, like right here,
I see. Okay, so that to me makes sense on now how it's power without a puller because you're basically telling me these are all down blocks, And if you had a puller, the ball's going to go this way. But you don't have a puller, so everybody's just going this way and the ball's going opposite.
Yeah. Like, it's still creating a wall. The reason why it's like a gap scheme in some people's books is like it's still creating a wall. You're still stepping out. You're using gap scheme techniques by the O lineman, and then the running backs just bang it down Main Street. So,
you have that thing on an automatic something where you just got your box that automatically.
I keep hitting. Look, I keep hitting the space button on my keyboard, and the box just keeps popping up, and I don't know. And I keep having to hit the trash can. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. All right. Well, we've run through all of the plays. We've taken up 90 minutes of Coach's time. We appreciate it.
Oh man, this is why I love talking ball. Like,
well, then here's another question for you. What's a good offensive play call against the Bear front?
Depending on how you coach it. So, like, insert, like we saw Texas run a little bit ago, or Georgia run a little bit ago against Texas. Insert can be a really good play. It's just a tough block on your center. So when you get into Bear front stuff, there's going to be a hard block at some point throughout the line of scrimmage. For me, we ran into a Bear front, like exclusively Bear front team this year. I still liked wide zone into it. So, hey, baby. It's my wife. But so, like, we ran into a Bear front. I still liked wide zone because I liked having the matchups that we had with our one-on-one blocks to the play side. I thought it was an easier block to make. But there's some other Bear front teams where you're like, so like right here, if you go back to the very top. So like right here, we ran into a team that lined up almost exactly like this. One backer in the box, and we had our tight end would be a little wider, and their DN would always be outside of him. Mm-hmm. So, and they would have a man coverage defender over the tight end. So in my opinion, I was like, let's run away from the tight end because there's an extra man defender out there. Not muddy the picture. The one-on-one block now becomes that right tackle against the defensive end. I valued that matchup way more than I liked my center one-on-one with a nose guard. That's a really hard block to make. And just the personnel that we had in the game, it was their best D lineman against an all-conference performer for us, but still a hard block. So I looked at that. I was like, I like our tackles against their DNs. I'm going to run wide zone into it. So for us, that game, wide zone was a great call. Texas, or Georgia right here, rather, they decided that their center could win that block. And they end up running insert, which is another favorite call of mine. And the insert guy doesn't even get to the right defender. But on a whiteboard, insert would still work. He has to read the block of the center, though. Mm-hmm. So other than that, I mean, you can go 12 personnel, and now your options are wide open. 12 personnel counter is awesome into Bear fronts. You're not going to be able to find a straight-up Bear front answer out of 11 personnel that has all the numbers accounted for. Just, the math is off.
All right. Man, awesome work. And Kat, we saw your brain hurts, but we went high level on y'all today, baby. We brought that fire. Coach Connor Floden, man, did his thing. Like always, man, we love when we have people come on with the expertise.
I know. I like when I get to learn something too.
That's right. Me too. And we're sorry we did keep you for a long time.
No, you're all good. I love talking football. Every year we do with our players, it's like, what's like your hobby? And my answer is always so boring. I'm just a fucking football nerd. Like, I have tons of football film that I watch religiously. Like, I watch like 4 or 5 different teams every week in season on top of my own film. It's like, I love football. So I just like talking ball with people that enjoy talking ball. So I thank you guys for having me.
Well, we're wishing you the best. Everybody make sure you guys, can people follow you? You got any social media stuff or something? How people get to you? I'll let you.
I'm not on much social media, but I got Twitter at CJ Floden. Just CJ, then my last name, Floden. That's really the only social media that I got. But if you follow me on there and you DM me, or reach out or anything, if you got questions or you want to hit me up about talking through some things, or you want to teach me some things. I love learning football too. Like, I'm trying to learn every day. So if you guys do something unique, please reach out. So like,
yeah. See, that's the person we got to ask right there.
Yeah,
we know.
But reach out to me on Twitter.
Have to ask if she makes you watch it out in the car like you did when you were a little bit younger, when you were sleeping outside. Does she lock the door on you too when you get out?
No, my wife is incredible. She lets me do all the football stuff that I need to and want to, and she supports every part of it. She's been with me through 3 states now in 2.5 years. So she's incredible. But
Coaches' wives are invaluable. I can say that.
Yep.
That no one understands.
Yep.
Go through. What did
For
she
sure.
say?
She said that her favorite joke is that she's actually the other woman. Football is his first love.
Mm,
Hey,
Nah.
I've heard this too. I hear it in my own house.
That's right.
But so Twitter, CJ Floden, follow me, DM me, hit me up. My DMs are open. I will respond as best I can. Sometimes it gets lost, but if you hit me up a couple times, I'll be sure to respond.
All right. Well, we do appreciate it once again, and we'll hope to have you back on. Maybe when your recruiting season slows down, and maybe you can come back on Teague's Take and let's talk a little bit more in the off season.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
That would be fun.
Sweet.
So, JT, you got any last words before I get ready to close this thing out?
Yeah. Weekly reminder. Playbooks are huge. Cut the players some slack. They're asked to know a lot of things and react to a lot of things
very quickly. So all that got to be. You heard Coach Flo talking about it earlier. What they got to process before the snap, or maybe in the play, is just don't ever call people dumb jocks, because I don't like that, because it's a whole lot more than you guys think to execute this. And I love what you said. I think I'm going to take it. It's just we're all in this together. The coaches and the players. It seems like we're always trying to blame somebody. Fire the coordinator, fire the quarterback, fire the safety, fire the something. And a lot of times it's not even what you think, So we try to use this show as the educational piece, and Coach Floden brought the education to all of us. So thank you one more time. And now, as a ritual, Coach, you got to give us a little dance, because we got a little music on. Give us a little something. What do you got?
No way, man. I don't dance. I have to listen. I don't dance.
Real gangsters don't dance. They boogie.
You the guy that leans on the wall. That's okay. You lean on the wall. Everybody else
Listen, my body from side to side.
I danced one time in my life, and it was at our wedding.
You might just dance this. So y'all hit that subscribe button. Tell everybody where we at. Get people to watch this show. It's a great job out here. We love you guys. He's Coach Flo. DJT. Man, whatever. I'm George T. We'll see y'all later. Peace.